President Zelenskyy of Ukraine delivered a rude awakening to Donald Trump yesterday from Ukraine's capital city of Kyiv. Here's what went down. Yesterday marked the 3-year anniversary of Russia's unlawful invasion of Ukraine. So the day began with Donald Trump trying to assert his dominance over Ukraine by announcing that he was bringing the United States into an axis of evil that was joined by Russia, Belarus, Hungary, and North Korea. And all of those nations, including the United States, opposed a United Nations resolution condemning Russia for its unlawful invasion of Ukraine 3 years ago. But President Zelenskyy was prepared. President Zelenskyy surrounded himself in Kyiv with other world leaders who he invited on that 3-year anniversary of Russia's unlawful invasion. And President Zelenskyy had a plan to checkmate Donald Trump. You see, the European leaders then sent French President Emmanuel Macron to go to Washington, D.C. to basically call Donald Trump out to his face in front of the world media there at the White House. French President Emmanuel Macron shook Donald Trump's hand super hard and then would fact check Donald Trump when Trump would say all of the lies about Putin and say all of the lies about Zelenskyy. So they flanked Donald Trump by sending Emmanuel Macron to the United States. And then you had Zelenskyy flanked by the world leaders in Kyiv, in Ukraine, standing up to Vladimir Putin and sending a strong and powerful message. So here is what Zelenskyy said during this meeting where he's surrounded by the leaders of all of these world democracies. Here, play this clip.
The war continues against Ukraine, and therefore Ukraine must be at the negotiation table. Along with Europe, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, the strategic target of Russia is Europe itself, the European way of life, and thus its security. And Europe's fate cannot be decided without Europe. Ukraine, Europe, together with America, we need to be at the negotiation table opposite Russia so that the necessity for peace is not talked over again with promises of normalization, reset, or reconciliation.
Here's President Zelenskyy again. Let's play it.
The end of the war must begin with steps that restore trust in the situation itself. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, because there is no trust in Russia, and a situation is needed where they talk about ending the war, a real situation. And now a step could be the release of prisoners. Thousands. Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Thousands of people are being held in Russia. And some of them not only from the year 2022, but much earlier, since the year 2014. Russia must release Ukrainians. Ukraine is ready for an all-for-all exchange, and this is a fair option.
Here's another clip of President Zelenskyy from that meeting. Let's play it.
Petro Poroshenko, Ukraine, and many people around the world assert that NATO is currently the simplest, a cheap and reliable way to guarantee peace and calm in Europe. It really is. It is an already ready and effective security guarantee system that has worked for decades and has prevented the outbreak of war, even where there is a border between NATO and Russia. And this is a long, very, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, a long border. We must speak honestly. Ukraine deserves not only membership in the European Union, but also the security guarantees provided by NATO. And if membership in NATO for Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, for our people, it will remain closed. We will have no other choice but to build song. Holy, holy, holy. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, NATO in Ukraine, that is to ensure such financing, such contingents, such defense production, which would mean guaranteed peace.
Here's another clip of President Zelenskyy.
On February 24th, 2025, 3 years after the start of Putin's 3-day special military operation, Ukraine is alive, fighting, and our country has more friends in the world than ever before. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, no one in the world believes Russia's lies about our state, our people, and even those who unfortunately have become accomplices of Russia in the war, who lie together with it. They all understand whom and why they support.
Then President Zelenskyy talked about his support for Canada and Prime Minister Trudeau. Watch this.
Tell us how much he likes Canada, because
I love Canada. And I really appreciate that we have such relations with you, Justin. And you helped a lot, and a lot of your people helped us at the very beginning of war.
By the way, Canada has the largest population of individuals from Ukraine who migrated out of Ukraine. So there is this also very special bond between Canada and Ukraine. Here's what President Zelenskyy said about Donald Trump, though, when he was asked about Trump. Play this clip.
My relationship with President Trump, it's never was in such best way.
Can you improve it? Can you mend it, you think?
Our countries have strategic relationship and we are partners. And I think it's not in our rights, like presidents, to lose partnership between our countries. And that's why, for me, it's very important support of the president and support of Senate, Congress of your two parties. But first of all, support of your people. And I count on it very much. And I'm thankful that we have it.
Now, through all of these clips, you'll see Zelenskyy standing up to Donald Trump. And as I mentioned before, you then had the French President Emmanuel Macron go to the White House and then kind of fact-check Donald Trump to his face. Here's an example of that. Let's play the clip.
Will France support the U.S. being compensated?
I support the idea to have Ukraine first being compensated, because they are the one to have lose a lot of their fellow citizens and being destroyed by these attacks. Second, all of those who paid for could be compensated, but not by Ukraine, by Russia, because they were the one to aggress.
Again, just so you understand, Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total efforts, and it was through, like the US, loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money, to be clear. Yeah. We have 230 billion frozen assets in Europe, Russian assets, but this is not as a collateral of a loan, because this is not our belonging. So they are frozen. If at the end of the day, in the negotiation we will have with Russia, they're ready to give it to us, super. It will be loan at the end of the day, and Russia will have paid for that.
If you believe that, it's okay with me.
Mr. President,
they get their money back, we don't, and now we do. But that's only fair.
Mr. President, should Russia should be the one that pays everybody back? Are they the aggressors?
Well, we're negotiating everything, and everything's on the table, and we'll see if we can get some land back, and we'll see about a lot of different things.
While that meeting was happening in Kyiv, you had all of these countries in Europe, in Canada, in Australia, elsewhere, just announcing these massive aid packages to Ukraine, and also saying there's not going to be a deal unless you allow Europe in these negotiations, unless you allow Ukraine in these negotiations. And we're doubling down and tripling down and quadrupling down. Whatever it takes, Europe, Canada, elsewhere, they said we're standing with Ukraine. I want you to watch this as well. This is from the floor of the United States House of Representatives. Here's Congresswoman Balint saying, I think this was such a powerful speech where she goes, I can't believe what I'm seeing. You've got Donald Trump and a United States president trying to form alliances with dictators. What the hell? Here, play this clip.
And now the United States stands with Russia and North Korea against Ukraine and all of our allies in Europe. It's sick. We are standing with dictators and against our allies. I never thought I would see the day when our president would be a puppet for a...
And then just so you see, like French President Emmanuel Macron, like babysitting Donald Trump, here they are sitting together and you've got Donald Trump talking about like robbing Fort Knox for gold. Play this clip.
We're actually going to Fort Knox to see if the gold is there, because maybe somebody stole the gold. tons of gold.
You know, and the United States propaganda machine was flummoxed. They were perplexed. I mean, here's Kayleigh McEnany, like not even sure. Like she's like, what are my talking points supposed to be? Oh, let's just say this is part of a brilliant negotiating strategy. Here, play this clip.
There might be some strategy to that. I do think there's a quote method to the madness of, buttering up a dictator who very much enjoys that to then find some sort of deal that is friendlier on your terms than maybe it would have been.
Yes, I think.
No, it's not part of a brilliant negotiating strategy. The brilliant negotiating strategy is what Europe is doing right now. That's, you want to know 4-dimensional or 5-dimensional chess? You send Macron to the United States, have him just swarm Donald Trump. I used to play basketball, a ton. And what you would do is you'd have your best defender, right? Kind of go next to like their person and just like shadow him wherever he would go. So to me, that's like Macron by Donald Trump. And then you have your rest of your world leaders surrounded by, in Ukraine, surrounding Zelenskyy, again, showing absolute strength. And, like when Donald Trump's saying like, I've spoken to Putin and Putin says he'll do this. Here's what Putin's told the press. Putin said Monday that he has not discussed resolving the conflict in Ukraine in detail with Trump, and nor did Russian and American negotiating teams talk about really anything like that when they met in Saudi Arabia last week. That tells you a lot right there. So here you got Macron and Donald Trump, and here Trump is asked, can you explain your rationale in having the U.S. vote against the UN resolution that Ukraine proposed? Here, play this clip.
Can you explain the rationale, sir, in the U.S.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Can you explain the rationale in having the U.S. vote against the UN resolutions that Ukraine proposed and also the U.S. proposed?
I would rather not explain it now, but it's sort of self-evident, I think.
Here, Donald Trump is asked, so you call Zelenskyy a dictator. What about Putin? Here, play this clip.
President, you called Zelenskyy a dictator. Would you use the same words regarding Putin?
I don't use those words lightly. I think that we're going to see how it all works out. Let's see what happens. I think we have a chance of a really good settlement between various countries. And, you're talking about Europe and you're talking about Ukraine as part of that whole situation. The other side has a lot of support also. So let's see how it all works out. It might work out. Look, you can never make up lives. The one thing you can make up the money, but you can't make up the lives. A lot of lives lost. I think probably a lot more lives than people are talking about. It's been a rough war, but I think we're close to getting it solved.
Question about Doge, sir?
And then finally, you have Democratic Senator Bernie Sanders. Here's what he's got to say. Play this clip.
I do not want to hear one Republican come to the floor of the Senate and talk about freedom unless that senator has the guts to call out Trump for the lies that he is telling about Putin and the war in Ukraine. Mr. President, it was Russia that started the war, not Ukraine. It is Putin who is the dictator, not Zelenskyy. This country must not align itself with Putin and authoritarianism. We must fight for democracy all over the world.
He caucuses with the Democrats, I guess technically an independent, but there you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers. But you see Zelenskyy standing up, powerful stuff right there. Let me know what you think.